Symbology of the Bible, Volume 2. The Shepherd Kings. There is an interesting period in Egyptian history, the reign of the Hyksos kings as Pharaoh. A Bing definition search returns this information.
Hyksos. Noun. Hyksos, plural noun. 1. A people of mixed Semitic and Asian descent, who invaded Egypt and settled in the Nile Delta circa 1640 BC. They formed the 15th and 16th dynasties of Egypt and ruled a large part of the country until driven out circa 1532 BC. Origin, from Greek huxos, interpreted by Manetho as shepherd kings or captive shepherds, from Egyptian Hika Koswi, foreign rulers.
To put this information in our context, refer to the timeline below. The timeline of the Shepherd Kings and the children's presence in Egypt are completely in sync. The location of the children's territory was determined by Joseph. Genesis 45 verse 7, "And God sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance." 8. "So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt." 9. "Haste ye, and go up to my father, and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not." 10. "And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me, thou and thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks, and thy herds, and all that thou hast." The next task is to determine where Goshen is or was. Sources indicate the area on the map below. The source states that Goshen is believed to have been located in the eastern Nile Delta, Lower Egypt, perhaps at or near Avaris, the seat of power of the Hyksos kings. The location of Avaris is indicated below, and a comparison with the other map shows it is exactly in Goshen. Other sources provide more information on the Hyksos kings. Archaeological finds further testify to the Hyksos culture's diversity. Ancient artwork depicts members wearing colorful robes, distinct from Egypt's traditional white clothing, while records indicate that they had names similar to people from Southwest Asia, according to science. Note that Southwest Asia is synonymous with the Middle East, and we can even include Asia Minor, the Anatolian Peninsula. So, what of the colorful robes? We can find a clue here. Genesis 37 verse 3. "Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors." Genesis 37 verse 23. "And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors, that was on him." It seems reasonable that Joseph would make another one to replace that one, as a memorial to his father's recognition of his stature, out of respect to Jacob. No doubt it became a thing in Egypt when Joseph attained rule as regent to the Pharaoh. He would have had a place in Goshen to rule from, when not in the city proper of Pharaoh. Those cities were traditionally Thebes and others south of the Nile Delta, as shown to the left. Thus, his request for the children to settle in Goshen. More information on the Egyptians reinforces the previous conclusion of migration from the cradle. Publishing its findings in Nature Communications, the study concluded that preserved remains found in Abu Zar el-Melek, Middle Egypt, were closest genetic relatives of Neolithic and Bronze Age populations from the Near East, Anatolia, and Eastern Mediterranean Europeans. This would explain the movement to and from Egypt, as there was no doubt connections, albeit ancient ones. The interactions of staffs can represent the negotiations that went on as peoples would claim and establish lineage to support their positions. In fact, marriages between families of rulers was common to form alliances and even solidify the relationship between related peoples. And we can find more evidence to support the proposal that the shepherd kings were of the children of Israel.
It used to be said that these people were shepherd kings. The idea was that they were nomadic wanderers who came into Egypt and somehow took over, but now the correct translation is foreign kings. Now new research lends weight to an alternative theory on the Hyksos origins. As Colin Barris reports for Science magazine, chemical analysis of skeletons found at the Hyksos capital of Avaris indicates that people from the Levant, an area encompassing the countries surrounding the Eastern Mediterranean, immigrated to Egypt centuries before the takeover. The Hyksos dynasty, then, was likely the result of an immigrant uprising, not a hostile outside invasion.
The answer is right under their noses. However, they cannot see beyond it, since they reject any biblical authority. As regards the land of Goshen, some believe it is an Arabic word.
The word, which in its Hebrew form has no known meaning, may mean cultivated, comparing the Arabic root Jisham to labor.
However, per Strong, it is likely Egyptian.
Goshen. Goshen, the residence of the Israelites in Egypt, also a place in Judea, the Levant. Etymology, probably of Egyptian origin.
The compound is given as Goshen, and the parts are
gay, haughty, proud. Etymology, 4H 1343, lofty. Shen, crag, cliff. Shen, a place in Judea, the Levant.
This recalls the safe place Yahweh told Moses about to let his fury pass him by, the same meaning as the Passover sacrifice. Thus we could say that this lofty crag represents shelter in the rock, just as they were sheltered when the plagues hit after the deposition of their king by the Egyptians. It also serves as a type of the King of Kings being rejected and the children put in captivity to be freed later. The sources give more information on the shepherd kings.
They worshipped strange gods, these Hyksos, which is strange. One is Seth. Seth was represented by an animal, and the animal is called the Seth animal, because it's like no animal we've ever seen. They have a god Reshep, who was a god of storms, which is kind of interesting. Also war and storms. The Hyksos don't seem to have integrated.
During the beginning of their sojourn in Egypt, this last piece of information reflects their admonishment to not mix with heathen peoples, that is, idolaters and worshippers of inanimate sculptures. Also, we are well versed with the fact that the children were quite in-depth symbologists. Furthermore, ancestor deification could be applicable. After a couple generations, Seth, the patriarch of all Semites, may have been deified by the Semitic Egyptians. Another interesting observation is the Seth animal mentioned by the source. Images from temples and other Egyptian artifacts follow. As shown in the images, the Seth animal is sometimes portrayed with a beak-like face, and at other times with a snout, as in the statue. As with other peoples, The Egyptians used animals as symbols of entities. There are a number of animals that are candidates for the Seth animal, along with hybrids of them. A short description of Seth is provided by the Egyptian Museum, housing the statue in the previous image.
Seth, Set, son of Geb, earth, and Nut, sky, brother of Osiris, was god of the desert, foreign lands, thunderstorms, eclipses, and earthquakes. Seth was a powerful and often frightening deity. However, he was also a patron god of the pharaohs, particularly Ramses the Great. He protected the dead on the way to the afterlife. In Egyptian mythology, Seth killed Osiris in an attempt to become the ruler of Egypt. However, Osiris's and Isis's son, Horus, defeated Seth in combat. Seth then was adopted by the sun god Ra. He became the thunder in the sky and protected Ra from the chaos serpent Apophis during the sun's nightly travel through the underworld. While Seth has been depicted in a variety of animal forms, he is usually depicted as a dog-like animal with a forked tail called the Seth animal.
In the description, Seth is called the god of the desert and foreign lands. The latter is an odd designation, but if he originated in a foreign land, it would be appropriate. The history given can be seen to parallel true history. The established ruler is supplanted by a foreign king, and then the descendants of the original ruler defeat the foreign kings. Also, we see a powerful god associated with thunderstorms, just like Thor, whom some associate with Tyr. And there is a serpent, just as in the Norse and other mythologies. Furthermore, the reference to Reshep is very interesting. Another source gives a fairly thorough description of Reshep.
Reshep was a war god whose origins are from Syria. He was brought into the Egyptian pantheon during the 28th dynasty. He normally wears the upper Egyptian crown, adorned with a gazelle head in front and a ribbon behind. The gazelle connects Reshep iconographically with the god Seth. He was an ideal royal deity, especially in an era boasting of the military and sporting prowess of its monarchs. Some of the Egyptian epithets he receives are Lord of the Sky or Lord of Eternity. One region on the east bank of the Nile was even named the Valley of Reshep. He appears on Theban stela alongside the Egyptian god Min and the Syrian goddess Kadesh. He is known both in Egypt and the Near East as Reshep Shulman. From https://www.touregypt.net/godsofegypt/recipitation.
Two of the main Seth worship centers are shown on the maps below. The southern location on the right map is translated to the left map to show its relative location. The approximate location of the Valley of Reshep is shown on the map below. It is co-located with one of the Seth worship centers. Note the conflation of Reshep with Seth. There are a number of theories as to what animal is represented by the Seth animal, but we can identify a few candidates.
The Siagush, meaning black ear in Persian, is a medium-sized wild cat, better known as the caracal. These elusive cats live in dry woodlands, savannas, scrub forests, and semi-deserts across Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Central and South Asia. They avoid true, sandy deserts and dense equatorial rainforests. From San Diego Zoo Animals. +5 others.
The habitat of the caracal, shown on the map, includes Egypt. The cat conforms well to the Seth animal body shape. Another candidate is the Cape hare below.
Cape hares are native to Africa, Middle East, and Central, South and Western Asia. They are also found on Sardinia Islands, Italy, and Cyprus. These hares inhabit shrubland, grassland, bushveld, the Sahara Desert, and semi-desert areas.
The habitat map shown below indicates that the hare is found in Egypt and the Levant. Like the caracal, it lives in semi-desert areas, the territory of Seth. Also, like the caracal, the profile of the head fits well with the profile of the Seth animal's head. Yet another animal fitting the profile is the jackal. The jackal is a canine species looking like a fox, and as seen in the picture above, it has a narrow, pointed snout similar to some of Seth's renditions.
An AI overview. The golden jackal lives in North Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, and parts of Europe. These adaptable animals thrive in grasslands, deserts, shrublands, and agricultural areas. They prefer places with easy access to water like marshes and river valleys.
Once again, a candidate that lives in desert areas, the areas in Seth's domain. And as the map to the left shows, its habitat includes Egypt. So a number of animals, all that occupy desert areas, and that have a head profile similar to Seth's. Perhaps his animal is an amalgam of all these candidates. And there is one more animal of interest, the aardvark. The snout of the aardvark resembles some depictions of the Seth animal's head. The large ears also fit well with the renditions presented previously. The habitat of the aardvark lies just on the periphery of Egypt's modern border, with a slight penetration. This also fits well with the god of foreign lands just south of two of the main worship centers. Returning to Reshep, the storm and war attributes are reminiscent of Thor, the Norse Odin's son, who some connect with Tyr. However, the Hebrew form of the word brings in the lightning and includes the seraphim, seen in earlier articles. A study of the name follows.
Reshef, a live coal, by analogy, lightning, figuratively, an arrow, as flashing through the air. The root is saraf, to be on fire, causatively, set on fire.
The lightning attribute may be the product of the lightning that ran along the ground. The Egyptians, once they deposed the shepherd kings, likely kept the children as a captive resource and labor. When the hail came and the lightning came with them, the event was attributed to the god Reshep, which after time became a member of the Egyptian pantheon. Thereby the event, as being a defeat, was erased just due to time passing. In any event, we see Reshep also hyphenated with Shulman. There is an interesting similarity with this name and the Hebrew word H7965, shalom.
Shalom, safe, i.e., figuratively, well, happy, friendly. Also, abstractly, welfare, i.e., health, prosperity, peace. Etymology, from H7999.
This hyphenated form suggests a god of war and peace. This is an attribute of the two-edged sword, war on one edge and peace on the other. But there is another Hebrew word that may be more similar.
Shalman, H8020. Shalman, a king apparently of Assyria. Etymology, of foreign derivation. KJV, Shalman. Compare H8022.
Strong informs that the above word is of foreign origin, but we have the very next Hebrew word.
Shalmun, H8021. Shalaman, a bribe. Etymology, From H7999, KJV, reward.
This word is rooted in peace and security, just as shalom, and is closer to the proper name, Solomon.